What we got? I'm starting it off?
We can ask questions, unless you got something you want to say.
You tell me.
Well, my name's Owen.
Nice to meet you, Owen.
Tell me how you're doing with names around the office. Have you learned all the fellow coaches' names at least by now?
I do have the coaches' names.
Okay, good.
I do have all my guys' names. Okay. I got most of the offense, slowly getting there, and I'm way behind on the defensive guys. But no, it's been a process, guys, in terms of just getting here and trying to meet as many people as you possibly can, and so you can establish those relationships, right? And that's what it's really all about, and especially at this level. So, yeah.
What about the Iowa program stuck out to you as a place that you'd want to be?
I think when you just talk about all the different things that this place stands for, it's alignment, right? And you talk about a developmental program that's built off the right things, right? Of hard work, effort, graduating and sending guys to school and making sure they're good people, right? And when you think about Iowa, you think about good people, you think about hard work. And a lot of those things just stood out to me and were things that I was really looking for in terms of this next spot that I, ended up in. And so it was great when you look at it from an alignment standpoint. And so I'm just fired up to be here with the group of guys that I'm with. We all kind of see it the same way, but we see it differently. You know what I'm saying? So it's a good blend of like having the same mindset, so to speak, but like having different viewpoints so that we can all add value to, making this situation the best situation we can make it.
John Seppi at the Gazette.
Nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you too. So, kind of what stood out to you about the room that you've inherited so far?
Oh my God, when you talk about just uber talent, right? Like I knew the guys were good coming into it. I kind of tried to do my homework in terms of the process of saying, who is who and understanding what they were kind of about. But it was cool to actually get them in the room. It was nice to have them in practice. And then for me, like I got thrown to the fire, right? So the first day I come and we got a skills and drills practice, guys. So I'm like, oh, right, here we go. And but it was good for me to be able to get a baseline interview of what they can and cannot do, so to speak. And then just be able to kind of build on those foundations. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what the focus has been on this whole entire spring, is just making sure that we have a foundational piece that Coach Best already did a great job of establishing, and just trying to build on top of that and make it a little bit stronger so when we get out there August, September, wherever it is, we're ready to go.
What's these last 2 months been like? Because if I'm remembering right, I think you officially were named like a week before spring practices. So I'm assuming hitting the ground running.
Oh my God. So first day was crazy. HR stuff. We had pro day that day. And then, like I said, the next day was skills and drills. So we out there right there in the practice. The very next day is spring practice number 1. Right, and so we're all going, and then the next day after that, spring practice number 2, and then you get a little breather, right? No, you don't. Then we come back the next day, we have a dang on coach's clinic. So it was that first week, oh my God, flying by the seat of my pants. But the thing that actually was really good and made me settle in was the comfort that I had with the offense and knowing like the terminology and things being similar. So I didn't have to go through the learning period of the offensive part, so to speak, that added anxiety of moving to a new place and being in a different place. So it was good. It was good that way.
Omar, Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Omar, just Tim Lester's system, pro-style system, NFL, really helped the run game last year. Do you feel like that's kind of going to be a big part of developing a successful run game, is kind of having that in place?
For sure. And I think when you think about football, right, this game isn't that hard, right? Or when you think about it, it's pretty simple. And when you look back to the old days of it, you run the ball, right, and you have success. Now, and I think for us, that's where we're leaning towards, right? And we've kind of shown that a little bit last year of being a run-first offense and opening it up. But the cool thing about where we're at this spring is we're growing, right? So now the pass game is growing. And now these guys are getting way more comfortable in terms of the route depths and things like that. And so it's really fun and cool to see the offense take another step and add another dimension to it to make us multifaceted. That I think that's going to give us that extra oomph that we might not have had last year, but we'll be able to have this year as a result of that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Elliot,
nice to meet you. Yes,
nice
sir.
to meet you. Having just a breadth of experience that you do between the NFL, FCS football, I guess how do you take all of that and make this room better? How do you lean on that experience?
Great question. I think for me, that's kind of one of the things is there's a bunch of different ways to skin a cat. and being able to see different ways to go about it, having different styles of running backs like we do right now, where you look at Xavier, for example, he's different than everybody else in the room. Whereas Kamari, TJ, somewhat similar but different, right, in their own rights. And then Nate's completely different from all of those guys, and Jazz is different, and Brevin's different, right? And so I think all of those experiences of seeing so many different ways to do it and so many different styles of running backs to do it has been super beneficial. You know, like I go back to my time in Green Bay when we drafted Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. Those two, again, different kinds of styles, but we made it work, right? And so just having all those different experiences to rely on has been great. So it's been helpful.
Ethan Petrick, Quad City Times. I was
Nice
curious,
to meet you.
Tim Lester, nice to meet you as well.
Yeah.
Tim Lester mentioned Aaron Jones as a Kamari Moulton comp last year. Do you
Yeah.
see that when you see
Absolutely.
Kamari?
Absolutely. It's crazy how like eerily similar those guys are when you just put the tape on. And he's still got some work to do before he thinks about getting truly in that breath, right? But he's well on his way of becoming his own person, to be honest, too. And that's exciting to see. And they all are, man. Like, they are working their tails off, and I'm super proud of them. It's not easy coming in here, dealing with a new coach when you've had a guy that's been with you for 2-3 years. And they've been super, super appreciative in terms of the effort that they give me, the way they go out there and practice, and their growth mindset that they have. And we kind of just talked about that this morning as well, just having a growth mindset. You know, we all do, like me included, you know. And so hopefully they understand that it goes both ways with that. And, you know, I'm trying to do my best with that too.
In terms of inheriting a room that, you know, guys that you didn't recruit,
Yeah.
is it difficult to build those relationships in such a short amount of time?
It is. It is, and it's not. And I think it's about intention, right? And so I think both parties are being intentional about having those relationships. The group was freaking strong, right? Like they're all together. Like when you see them, most of the time they're always all together in some group form or fashion. And so it's just trying to build on that, right? And how can I come in there and add to it and be a part of it, more importantly, and just finding my way, right? And that just takes time, and it's a two-way street. So, like I said, those guys have been open arms in that regard, and it's been cool that they've kind of brought me in that way too.
Tyler Tachman
Nice to
with
meet you,
the
Tyler.
Good Morning Just nice to meet you. How would you describe just your coaching style and kind of what you want to be
Yeah.
to your players?
Man, I think when I think about myself, right, I think about somebody that's demanding, that tries to hold the guys accountable, right? And we set a standard from day one. Part of it was me initially setting the standard, but it was more of a group effort of what we want to be and how we want to establish ourselves, right? And so I think that when you think about that, for me, it's all about people, right? And the more we can be good people and eliminate a bunch of distractions off the field, things like that, I think that that's kind of where we're going, right? And it's a part of the developmental process, right? It's not just the person, it's more the people. And the more I keep developing the people, the better football players we'll have. And so accountability, right, demanding, and then just developing from a holistic approach is kind of how I describe myself in a nutshell.
Along those lines, kind of what's your why for coaching?
Great. When you think about why, like I go back to one of the questions I was asked in the interview process was, who are some of the people that have influenced you? And I think about back to my high school days, and it's amazing that, you know, I had two great people, one of them who I call Uncle Steve, and then the other guy was Coach Shag, and both of those guys were old school, super old school, demanding as crap. I tell people all the time the hardest stuff I did was in high school. Like that's how those guys were, and it prepared me for life. Like talk about waking up in the morning early, getting up, having to go do this and having to go do that. And so when you talk about the why part of it, it starts with that. And then as you start to develop it, like I don't have kids, but I kind of see them as like nephews, little big brothers, you know what I mean? And just making sure that these guys, when they come here, their parents already established a foundation. My job is to put another level on that. And so now when we take that, we've got a person that's ready to go out there and go kill everything and be successful in everything that they do, from sports to football to being a parent to being a husband. And so that's my why. Like, that's the beauty about this deal. And that's why I love the college game. You know what I mean? You get to truly do that from the ground up. So.
Did you have any, I'm Chelsea, by the way.
How you doing, Chelsea?
Good. Did you have any connections to the staff at Iowa? Why you landed at Iowa, or?
Man, I was blessed.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. You had some right timing, right pieces. I think things happen for a reason. You talk about New England, that situation not working out. But from a New England standpoint, that me doing that and getting with those guys, and it was great people that I worked with there, but having that experience got me to the Senior Bowl, right? And I think that when you get to the Senior Bowl, now I'm working with Brian Ferentz, right? And so now that's an initial in. I have no connection to anybody at Iowa, right? So I'm like, there's no chance this is going to work out. And you start to peel back the layers, right? And you peel them back. And all of a sudden, this person knows this person. This person knows that person. Oh, shoot, this person knows that person. And so it just became that level, right? And now when you talk about Tim, like working with a lot of like-minded people and being around people that, you know, can vouch for you that way, I think that made that connection easy, you know, and then you talk about the piece of just being able to not necessarily, we can talk the same language, right, initially, like, so we might have a different dialect of how we're saying it, but we're talking the same language, so I think that made that whole process easier that way.
Omar, I mean, Jazzy and Patterson,
Yeah.
guy probably hits the hole out of the
Yeah.
backfield hard as anybody.
Yeah.
I guess for him, what's kind of his next step in his development? What have you seen from him early, and how do you kind of teach him maybe to wait that additional half second to kind of wait for a doll to open up? I guess, how do you kind of approach that without losing that aggressiveness that he has?
And it's funny because I tell the guys to be them, right? That's a superpower. And you got to play to your superpower, right? And we just try and enhance that. And so we do a bunch of different drills to try and slow them down a little bit. And that's all of them, right? Not just Jazz, it's all of them. Because the more that we can slow down and let things develop, the better the play is going to be. And so it's just about how can I get my process under control before the snap is happening to the point where I can take a deep breath and then I'm just going to go play free. And so that's part of it, right? And just giving them all the little tips and tools. And it starts with our footwork all the time. And then it starts with our eyes after that and making sure they're in the right place. And so just trying to slow those guys down, but it starts in practice. It actually starts in the meeting room. That's where it really starts. Trying to build their eyes and build the confidence up that way to where they go out there and it's just second nature like it's always been, really.
Omar?
Yes.